Get 1% better every day. The secret they don't teach you isn't just a motivational phrase. It's a way of life that quietly separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Real change doesn't require massive overnight transformations. It starts with something small. The task you've been avoiding, the habit you keep putting off, the decision you know you need to make. This is the secret no one teaches you in school, and most self-help books forget to mention. That consistency in small actions is more powerful than bursts of inspiration. In this video, you won't just hear uplifting words. You'll discover practical steps you can apply immediately. And here's something important. Watch this more than once. Each time, you'll catch something new. A truth you missed, a mindset shift that didn't click the first time. That's how learning works. That's how habits form. If someone in your life needs this message too, share it with them. A friend, a brother, a colleague who's been stuck in the same loop. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And in the comments, simply type one word, begin. No explanation is needed. Just let us know you're ready to change. One day, one step at a time. One, start with the step you keep avoiding. Progress doesn't start with doing everything. It starts with doing the one thing you've been avoiding. There's always that one thing lingering at the edge of our minds. A conversation we've postponed, an email we haven't replied to, a doctor's appointment we said we'd schedule but didn't. It's never huge on the surface, yet its weight is undeniable. Every morning, you feel it quietly tapping on your shoulder. Every night, it lies beside you in silence, reminding you that you've skipped it again. That task, that step, is small in action, but massive in impact, because what we avoid often reveals what we need to confront most. It's not about the phone call, or the paperwork, or the simple change in your routine. It's about resistance. That subtle but powerful voice in your head that whispers, "Not now, tomorrow's better," or maybe when things settle. But things never really settle, and tomorrow rarely makes it easier. The longer you wait, the louder that voice becomes. And eventually, you confuse the delay for protection when it's actually what's keeping you stuck. Avoidance is seductive. It disguises itself as rest, as rational thinking, even as self-care. But underneath, it's fear, not of the task itself, but of what that task represents. To make that call might change something. To write that message might expose something. To admit that truth might require you to act. And that's scary. My neighbor Rick is a good example. For 3 months, he knew something wasn't right with his health. He had the time. He had the knowledge, but fear convinced him to wait, not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. He feared what he might find out, feared that taking action would shatter the sense of normal he was clinging to. When he finally made that call and got his checkup, he told me afterward, "I felt lighter, not just physically, but mentally. It wasn't the results that changed me, it was the fact that I did it." That's the shift we're after. Not perfection, but movement. Not grand achievements, but small, meaningful progress. When people say they want to get better, most picture big moments, breakthroughs, turning points, applause-worthy actions. But the truth is, real progress is quiet. It often looks like finally opening the email that sat unread for weeks. It looks like lacing up your shoes, even if you only go for a walk. It looks like saying no when you've always said yes. These are not glamorous choices, but they're the foundation of identity change. The kind that doesn't just feel good for a day, but rewires who you are becoming. It's easy to consume content about self-improvement. It's tempting to fill your time with videos, books, and podcasts about building better habits. But until you face the one thing you're avoiding, all that information is just comfort in disguise. The uncomfortable truth is this: the fastest way to get 1% better today isn't learning more. It's doing what you've been pretending not to see. There's power in that step because it signals to your brain, your body, and your belief system that you are ready to take ownership. And once you do that once, it becomes easier the next time. Not because the step shrinks, but because you grow. You build confidence not through thinking, but through action. You build clarity not through waiting, but through movement. So ask yourself, and really ask, what's that one thing you've been avoiding? Say it out loud. Write it down. And if you can name it, you can face it. And if you can face it, you can change everything. 2. Small wins repeatedly become identity. You're not trying to win once, you're trying to win so many times that it becomes who you are. Real transformation never begins with one big victory. It begins with a small win, repeated, again and again. So many times that the action itself stops being something you do and quietly becomes who you are. You don't need to change your entire life today. In fact, trying to do that is often the very thing that causes people to burn out, give up, and fall back into old patterns. The truth is, change that sticks is slow, quiet, often invisible in the moment. Think about brushing your teeth. No one remembers each time they did it, but doing it consistently is what defines you as someone who's clean. You never need motivation to brush. Why? Because it's part of your identity now. Automatic, not optional. That's what small wins can do when you stack them daily. A friend of mine, Josh, a busy father of 2, used to feel overwhelmed about reading. He wanted to be more informed, more present, less glued to his phone. But instead of aiming to finish a book a week, he gave himself just 5 minutes each night. 5 minutes before bed. Just enough to open the book, read a few pages, and close it. At first, it felt trivial, but something shifted. A few weeks in, his daughter asked him, "What are you reading tonight, Dad?" Not "are you reading?" but "what?" In her eyes, reading had become something her father did. Not for a goal, not for praise, but because that's who he was. That's what identity change looks like. Small wins seem too basic, too easy, but their power lies in their repetition. When you choose a better action, even for 5 minutes, and you do that every day, you send a clear message to your brain. This is who I am now. And that's where everything shifts. Because identity is stronger than willpower. Anyone can push through once. But when your actions reflect your identity, they stop requiring effort. You no longer ask yourself every morning whether you'll do it. You just do. You've removed the friction, you've simplified the path, and now the habit flows almost without thinking. That's how powerful a small win becomes. Not on the first day, but on the 30th. Not because of intensity, but because of consistency. Imagine a mountain. Most people think they have to leap to the top, but no one gets there in a single move. What actually builds progress is simple. Pushing one stone forward at a time. Those stones are small wins, and as you move them day by day, you're not just making a path, you're becoming someone who moves forward. That becomes your rhythm, and over time, you don't even notice how far you've climbed until you stop and look back. That's why we say it's not about winning once, it's about winning often, in small, quiet ways that build belief. You don't need applause, you need a pattern, one that reinforces your values and direction. And eventually, those repeated actions become automatic. They become your proof, your quiet, personal evidence that you're changing, not with a bang, but with a steady, deliberate commitment to keep showing up. That's how identity is shaped. And once it is, everything else becomes easier. Not because life gets easier, but because you've already decided who you are. 3. Don't wait for motivation. Move first. Movement creates motivation, not the other way around. Some mornings you wake up ready to go. You feel sharp, clear-headed, and energized. On those days, productivity feels natural. But then come the other mornings, the ones where the weight of the blanket feels just right, the alarm feels too early, and your goals feel far away. On those days, motivation is nowhere to be found. This is where most people make the mistake of waiting to feel inspired, waiting for the right mood. But here's the truth. If you only act when you feel like it, your life will always be controlled by your emotions. And emotions are unpredictable, like waves, sometimes calm, sometimes crashing, never stable. Action, on the other hand, is the paddle. It's the tool that lets you navigate those waves. And unlike motivation, action is fully in your control. You can choose to move, even if it's a small step, even if it's just getting out of bed, putting on your shoes, or writing one sentence. That movement, however small, is what triggers clarity. That clarity leads to energy. And that energy, that's where motivation actually begins. I remember one Sunday morning stepping outside while the neighborhood was still wrapped in fog. That's when I saw Frank, my 70-year-old neighbor, quietly washing his car. It was 6 a.m. No music, no coffee in hand, just methodical movement. I asked, half jokingly, "Who motivates you to do this every week?" He smiled and said, "No one. I wash the car every Sunday, rain or shine, whether I feel like it or not." He didn't say it with pride, just calm certainty. That was his rhythm, his discipline, and that is the difference. Frank doesn't rely on how he feels to do what needs to be done. He acts first, and feeling catches up later. That is a lesson we all need to internalize. Because the hard truth is, motivation is a byproduct, lettered, not a prerequisite. It shows up when we show up. It grows stronger the more we act, and weaker the longer we wait. When you decide to move before you feel ready, you change the dynamic. You are no longer waiting on the emotional weather forecast. You are choosing to create it. This doesn't mean you push yourself to the edge or force yourself through exhaustion. It means you respect the power of the first step. That first step might be small, quiet, even clumsy, but it breaks the inertia. It signals to your brain, we're doing this. And once you begin, momentum begins to build. That's why some of the most productive days begin with no motivation at all, just movement. The act of starting is what unlocks focus. That focus fuels belief. That belief carries you further than any burst of hype ever could. The people who get better every day are not those who feel driven every morning. They are the ones who act despite the absence of drive, because they know that movement is the secret. Not grand gestures, not perfect plans, just doing the next thing. So the next time you feel like waiting for the mood to shift, for inspiration to strike, remember this: motivation is earned. It doesn't fall from the sky. It follows effort, it follows discipline, it follows action. Whether you feel ready or not, begin anyway. Get dressed, open the notebook, stand up, send the message, step into motion, and let that motion shape your mind. Because once you move, you'll remember who you are and why you started in the first place. 4. Control your time, or it will control you. If you don't lead your day will lead you. It usually starts with something small. You plan to work out in the morning, maybe even set out your clothes the night before. But when the alarm goes off, instead of standing up, you scroll through your phone. One video turns into 5. Then an email notification shows up. Then your child needs your help with their shoes. Before you know it, it's 9 a.m. and the window of opportunity has closed. So you tell yourself, maybe tomorrow. But tomorrow brings its own distractions. The day slips away again. Not because you don't care, not because you're lazy, but because you didn't protect your time. This is how time works. It doesn't scream at you when it's being wasted. It slips out quietly, one small choice at a time. Time isn't something we gain, it's something we manage. We either use it intentionally or let it scatter into 100 meaningless directions. And if you don't give your time a purpose, something else will assign it for you. That could be your phone, your inbox, your environment, or other people's priorities, all of which seem urgent, but rarely align with your long-term goals. I once had a colleague who told me he didn't have time to write. He had ideas, plans, even half-finished drafts, but no time. Yet he could tell you everything that happened in the latest series on Netflix, every plot twist, every character arc. He wasn't lying to me. He genuinely believed he had no time. But the truth is, he never took control of it. And when you don't take control of your time, time takes control of you. That's how people stay busy, but never make progress. They confuse motion with movement. They spend their day reacting instead of deciding. And by the end, they feel exhausted without feeling fulfilled. That's because their day drove them, instead of the other way around. Think of it this way. You're the driver of your day. But if you don't grab the wheel first thing in the morning, the day takes over. It takes you places you never planned to go. You handle errands that weren't urgent. You respond to messages that didn't matter. You solve problems that weren't yours to solve. And by nightfall, you're too tired to focus on what you actually care about. The most successful people are not those with fewer responsibilities. They're the ones who guard their hours like they matter. They know exactly when they work best. They protect that time. They don't wait to see what the day will bring. They choose what the day will be. Taking control doesn't mean scheduling every minute. It means being clear on what matters most and making sure those things happen first. Because time, when left unguarded, is always stolen by the easiest distraction. But is time used well? That's what builds momentum. That's what creates the habit of consistency. That's what transforms goals from ideas into realities. So tomorrow morning, before your phone, before the emails, before the noise, ask yourself, what does my time need to reflect today? What does it need to build? Then do that thing first. Do it not when you have time, but because you made time. That's what control looks like. That's what progress requires. And that's how you get 1% better. 1 hour, one choice, one guarded moment at a time. 5. Choose what builds you, not what comforts you. Growth lives in discomfort. Comfort keeps you stuck. It often starts innocently. You open YouTube to watch a useful video, maybe even something related to self-improvement. But 5 minutes later, you're laughing at a piano-playing cat or diving into clips of someone else's morning routine. It doesn't feel wrong. After all, we all need to unwind. But slowly, subtly, comfort becomes your default escape. Not because you're lazy, but because you're tired, unsure, or even overwhelmed. So you reach for something easy. You scroll, you snack, you click, you avoid. And while none of these things are evil in isolation, they quietly rob you of something far more precious than time. They rob you of direction. Because what feels good now can often cost you later. And the price is not immediate pain, but long-term stagnation. Growth, on the other hand, rarely feels good in the moment. It asks more of you. It's inconvenient, awkward, and sometimes boring. But it's also where transformation hides, inside the small actions you delay and the uncomfortable effort you keep skipping. I used to start my mornings with my phone. Just 5 minutes to check messages, maybe glance at the news. But by the time I looked up, I had already lost my focus. My workout could wait. My writing could wait. Everything could wait. Except what actually happened was this. The day got away from me. And then, at night, I'd promise myself I'd do better tomorrow. But tomorrow never got easier. It only got more crowded with excuses. I began to realize the real cost wasn't the missed workouts or the unfinished reading. It was the quiet erosion of trust in myself. Because every time I chose comfort, I taught my mind that short-term relief mattered more than long-term pride. And that message repeated daily shapes who you become. The hard truth is that nothing meaningful happens without discomfort. Reading 5 pages of a book when you're tired builds discipline. Writing a paragraph when you're uninspired builds momentum. Saying no to scrolling for 1 hour builds mental strength. These small moments don't feel like much. They don't impress anyone. There's no reward at the end of each task. But when stacked daily, they shift your identity. And over time, that shift becomes visible. Not in your calendar, but in how you carry yourself. You think more clearly. You show up more intentionally. You respect your time more. All because you chose what builds you, not what soothes you. Comfort is addictive because it's easy. You never have to push. You don't risk failure. You don't get judged. But the cost of staying comfortable is that you also never grow. You wake up 3 months later wondering why nothing has changed. And the answer is simple, because nothing was challenged. To grow, you must challenge yourself. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gently, daily. Choose the hard thing for 10 minutes. Pick the better option when no one is watching. Show up when you don't feel like it. That's the kind of discomfort that builds character. And that kind of character builds the life you keep saying you want. So the next time you reach for the easy option, pause. Ask yourself one honest question. Does this make me better or just more comfortable? You don't have to eliminate comfort, but you do have to stop worshiping it. Because the easy path offers you comfort now and regret later. The hard path, it offers you effort now and pride later. And that kind of pride, the kind you earn by choosing growth, is worth every uncomfortable step. 6. Speak to yourself like someone you believe in. Your inner voice becomes your outer results. The way you speak to yourself when no one is listening shapes everything. Your confidence, your decisions, and ultimately, your results. You can't build a better life while beating yourself up inside your own head. Growth doesn't happen in a hostile environment, and your mind is no exception. A friend of mine, a casual guitar player, once shared that he hadn't touched his instrument in 5 years. It wasn't because he didn't love music or lacked talent. It was because every time he picked up the guitar, a voice inside him whispered, "You're just pretending." That voice became louder than any praise he'd ever received. It wasn't the world stopping him. It was the story he kept telling himself and believing. That story, that inner dialogue, repeats itself quietly, often unnoticed, until it becomes a belief. And once a belief forms, your brain starts to search for evidence that it's true. So when you say things like, "I always mess this up," or "I'll never be disciplined," you're not just expressing a feeling, you're writing a mental script. Your brain stores it, accepts it, and then filters your experience through that lens. On the flip side, if you tell yourself, "I'm learning, I'm not perfect, but I'm improving," your brain adapts. It begins to see effort as progress and failure as feedback. This isn't about blind optimism. It's about accurate self-respect, the kind that gives you permission to evolve instead of staying trapped by fear and self-judgment. The inner critic has a voice that often sounds like your own. That's what makes it dangerous. You trust it without question. You think it's being honest when really it's just being cruel. That's why most people stay stuck. Not because of a lack of skill, but because they've convinced themselves they don't deserve to improve. But here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect to speak kindly to yourself. You need to be intentional. You need to choose the words that guide you forward, not pull you back. Because every time you talk to yourself, you're reinforcing either courage or self-doubt. You're either becoming your own coach or your own bully. Think about it like this. Would you say the things you tell yourself to your best friend? Would you tell them they're hopeless? That they'll never change? That their efforts don't count unless they're flawless? If not, then why speak that way to yourself? You're the one who hears your voice the most. Every morning when you wake up, every time you fail, every time you look in the mirror, that voice has the power to uplift or undo you, and you choose which direction it takes. When you speak like someone you believe in, everything shifts. You don't ignore your flaws. You simply stop letting them define your identity. You don't deny your mistakes. You learn from them without destroying your worth. That change in tone gives you room to act. It builds resilience. It creates the kind of mental environment where motivation grows and discipline feels possible. Your self-talk is the soil where your habits take root. Water it with doubt and you'll hesitate. Nurture it with belief and you'll build momentum. Over time, that momentum leads to confidence. Not from talking big, but from talking with care. Because self-respect isn't loud, it's consistent. So next time you catch yourself spiraling in criticism, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Is what I'm saying helping me move forward? If not, change the script. Speak truth, not judgment. Speak growth, not perfection. Speak with the tone of someone who believes change is possible, because that belief, repeated daily, is how you become 1% better every single day. 7. Keep going, even when you see no results yet. Progress happens quietly before it becomes visible. There are days when you do everything right. You wake up early, skip the scroll, eat well, move your body, and stay disciplined. You go to bed hoping to feel different, to see something new in the mirror or on the scale or in the numbers. But instead, you see the same reflection. And that's when doubt creeps in. That's the moment when most people stop. Not because they're weak, but because they're wired to expect quick feedback. We're used to fast results. Click a button, get a response. But transformation doesn't follow that rhythm. It starts invisibly. It starts within. You don't plant a seed and expect fruit the next morning. You water it, you wait, and only later do you see the roots, the stem, the bloom. Progress works the same way. You can't always see it growing, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. I used to run every morning for weeks without seeing a single change on the outside. My weight stayed the same. My body looked unchanged, but I noticed I was sleeping better. I had more patience. I reacted less and focused more. That's when I realized something important. I wasn't running to look different. I was running to become someone different. And that shift, though subtle, changed everything. I stopped measuring my efforts by visible rewards. I started honoring the unseen wins, the mental strength, the self-respect, the consistency. These are the early signs of progress that the world doesn't applaud, but they're the foundation of lasting transformation. Most people never get to the good part. They quit in the in-between. After the effort begins, But before the evidence shows up, they think it's not working, when in fact, the work is still building momentum. It's like boiling water. For minutes, it looks the same. Then suddenly, at 2:12, everything changes. But it only happens if you keep applying heat. If you turn off the flame too soon, nothing happens. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. Anyone can push hard for a day or two. But real change belongs to those who keep going when it feels pointless. Because that's when the process is actually doing its deepest work. Rewiring your habits, shifting your mindset, shaping your identity. Progress is often quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a celebration. It shows up slowly in how you speak to yourself, in how you handle stress, in how you respond instead of react. That's the version of progress that lasts. It's not about external applause. It's about internal alignment. And when that clicks into place, everything else begins to shift. Your energy, your outlook, your decisions. So if you're in a season where you're doing the right things, but nothing seems to be changing, don't stop. You're not stuck. You're in the middle. You're in the stage where most people give up. But you're also in the stage where transformation is quietly taking shape. That's why you must keep showing up, not for the instant results, but for the person you're building beneath the surface. Because the people who win are not the ones who always get it right. They're the ones who keep showing up when no one is watching. They stay in the game when no one is clapping. They trust the process even when the mirror stays silent. And that trust, repeated daily, is how you get 1% better every single day. Getting 1% better every day is not about massive change. It's about quiet choices that compound. It's about taking one uncomfortable step, repeating small wins until they shape who you are, and moving even when you don't feel like it. Most people wait for motivation. But real growth comes when you move first, lead your time, and pick actions that build you, not ones that simply comfort you. Your inner voice, the way you speak to yourself, becomes your reality. And the biggest transformation often begins in silence, long before results show up. That's the secret they don't teach you. But now you know. So today, choose one small action and do it with intention. Whether it's 5 push-ups, 5 pages, or 5 minutes of focused work, start there. Stay with it, trust it, and in time you'll see who you're becoming. We'd love to hear from you. What's your 1% today? What small win are you chasing? And what are you learning along the way? Drop your story in the comments below. Your journey could be the spark for someone else. If this message speaks to you, hit like and subscribe for more content that helps you build better habits, a stronger identity, and long-term growth.